It's time now to tackle the headline, and we're looking at the young guns from across the competition, the nominees from the Rising Star Award and those who maybe should have one by the end of the season. I mean, boys, let's start with the obvious. Corbin, Middlemas, John, Ralph, who should win?
Well, he's been the favourite most of the way through, so Levi Ashcroft's going to get my vote. I know brother Will obviously had success a couple of years ago. I feel like Levi across the course of the year has put together the best body of work. As you can see, he was nominated there in round 4 and he's pretty much been the outright favourite the whole way through, if not for a couple of late charges, John.
I look at players like Langford and Lindsay who've been spectacular, and even Archie Roberts, who probably hasn't got his flowers there as well. For me, it's Murphy Reid. So 20 goals, 30 assists. He's got the flashy moments, those 4 goals on debut in a matter of minutes. He's got the big game moments there as well. I think he's been really consistent. Yes, he's playing in a team where they get plenty of inside 50s, but I think he's been spectacular, and I think he, for me, just pushes ahead of Dan Curtin.
No Daniel Curtin, I was going to say. We haven't even mentioned him in this first couple of moments.
So it's an interesting conversation here about, how you would judge it. So are we judging this on the best body of work across the course of the year? So that's where I probably lean towards Levi, and you bring in Murphy Reid, Archie Roberts, someone that's done it for across the course of the season. Or are we looking at who reached the highest peak? And you could argue that no one's played better footy than Dan Curtin, so his top end's been as good as anyone. But has he done it for a long enough sample size? And it probably depends a little bit as to what the judges lead into. I don't think there's a hard and fast rule as to which one you have to pick. So do you prefer the peak, or do you prefer the larger sample size?
Yeah, and I think if you're Murphy Reid, Matthew Nicks, that you're saying, I think my player in Dan Curtin has had massive moments in big games.
Yeah.
It's been a cauldron at times there. He's had some huge moments there. He's taken a lot of contested marks, which for a second-year player is really challenging to do. So I think that'd be a really worthy 3. And again, we're judging midfielder by against talls, and we're judging first-year players by second-year players. It's really challenging. Lauren, have you got a perfect formula for it? Should it be any player under 50 games? Should it be any player under the first 3 years? They're not apples and apples.
No, they're not. I think something like a games trigger, whether it is a 30 or a 50, I think in that scenario, Ralphie, because it is still quite open when we can have second-year players that are nominated and, guys that are effectively in their first handful of games. When, as you say, we don't have this really clear delineation around the actual criteria. It's just so subjective to the judges, isn't it? I mean, it's all very secretive, of course, the herbs and spices that go into this thing. But I'd personally like to see a sort of body of work across your 30 games, and then you can be up for nomination. I don't know how you guys feel about it, but
and then if we're having if you say who's going to be the best player out of this bunch and what it's going to look, who's going to have the best career, it's a different conversation again. So you're not looking at the body of work across the season so far. You're basically saying, well, I'm also projecting a little bit. So I've seen a little bit of Dan Curtin, and I feel like he's just going to keep going up and up. So even if he hasn't produced a huge body across the course of the season, I feel like he's got great scope to go up again.
Now, John, I look at this list in front of me of players who are yet to be nominated, and gee, it's a pretty handy list. I mean, you look at Constanti, Hardiman, Cooper Harvey, Alex Taru, Angus Hasty, Taj Houghton, all these sort of guys. Who's the standout there for you?
Taj Houghton's got something special, and so I can understand why he hasn't been nominated. I think he can win it next year. I'd love to see him nominated. Steely Green's another one who's been really consistent. I'm just going to keep reeling off Tigers fans here. What do you think, Corbin?
Riley Hardiman for me. So, again, Sandgroper up the top of the list, but he's played some really good footy. He's not a first-year player either, so, again, falls into that category. I worked the game on the weekend that North played against St Kilda with Jared Healy, and I dropped into commentary that he hadn't been nominated yet, and Jared hopped all over it and basically said, come on, Shifter, let's give him a nomination at some point. So Jared Healy's a big fan of his work, and that's high praise from a Brownlow medalist. What about you, Loz?
Oh, Taru for me, at the risk, a bit like you, John, of sounding biased, but you talk about prospective talent. I mean, once this kid puts a little bit of size on, some of the stuff that he's been able to do, I think this season, particularly aerially, if he'd managed to just sneak in, I think those few games earlier, he obviously had injury and then that suspension in the VFL that he had to deal with. If he'd maybe had a few more games in, maybe shown a few more of his wares. But I think he's doing stuff as a first-year player that so many others aren't able to do. So I think you could certainly make a case for him to earn one in the last couple of weeks. But there might be an extra nomination or two sort of along the way, because I mean, it's a season out of the box for so many different reasons. But the round 0, the sort of cyclone effect has really affected the entire season. Tell us about that.
So last year was the first year we had opening round, and Matt Roberts got the nomination as the opening round rising star. This year, obviously, half the games were shaved off due to the cyclone, and so as a result, only 4 teams participated: Hawthorn, Sydney, GWS and Collingwood, and they didn't present a Rising Star nom from that weekend. So an interesting quirk, the teams from those 4 players had one less opportunity to get a Rising Star nom, and in round 24, Essendon and Gold Coast are going to play 2 games. So So then your Bombers and Suns players have the opportunity twice to impress the judges to try and get that last spot. It is an interesting quirk. I know a lot of people probably won't get too bent out of shape about it, but it is interesting that, the teams in opening round basically missed the chance for one extra nomination.
And just quickly for me, who is going to be the player who has the best career? I know Lewis Taylor won a Rising Star Award, maybe didn't have the exceptional career of a player like Marcus Bontempelli. For me, it's Nate Caddy. I still think that he's got the world at his feet. Big key position forwards, an Essendon star. Yeah, I think he can, in the end, usurp someone out there, like a Xavier Lindsay, like a Murphy Reid, or even a Harvey Langford.
Yeah, Sam Lawler for me. Just if he can get those soft tissues right, which is incredibly unfortunate. But at the very least, if he's not going to win the Rising Star, he can perform there on that guitar. He's doing some magnificent work from both of you as always. That's it from us at Tackle the Headline. We'll see you next time.